Okay. So I would like to thank the College of Social Work and all of you for having me here today. I am the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs over Health and Wellness and Dean of Students at Florida State University. And I am just thrilled to be talking about something other than the coronavirus. So, again, thank you. But I also understand that I am the only thing standing between you and lunch. So I will try my best to make this dynamic. This is something I am very, very passionate about. It's hard for me to contain this passion for this work within 15 minutes, but I promised Ellen I would do it. So hopefully I will just exude. You can just pick up the passion, and I won't have to go into a lot of all the depth that I could. So I want to tell you a little story before I jump in. I've been at Florida State University for 18 months. Before coming to Florida State, I was at a place called the College of New Jersey in Ewing, New Jersey. Anyone heard of it? Yeah, my Jersey peeps. Yes. So the state of New Jersey had a governor back in the day named Chris Christie. You've heard of him. And regardless of how you feel about Chris Christie, the man is passionate about recovery. So he and I are friends in that way, and he gave my institution, my former institution, a grant and said, create a collegiate recovery community. That never happens. So we had the opportunity to create a community from scratch. The only mandate was that I provided housing. So I found myself in the rare circumstances that I had all of the money that I needed to create a program. So I bought a house, I hired staff, I created a program, and nobody came. I had no students identifying as being in recovery from alcohol or other drugs that was saying, Angela, sign me up. I want to be a part of this community. I want to embrace the support of my recovery journey. So that was year one. We figured it out. And but my last year at the College of New Jersey, I sat with the families of 8 graduating seniors at a relatively small place, and we had the best time celebrating their students' journey and knowing full well that had it not been for the recovery program, they wouldn't have been where they were that day. So, and I still get emotional thinking about those very special students. So we learned a lot during that journey. And when I landed at Florida State University 18 months ago and realized we did not have a collegiate recovery program, this was one of the very, very first things on my agenda. So I want to, by a show of hands, who in the room is at an institution of higher education right now? Okay. And out of you, do you know if you have a collegiate recovery program? Okay, if you are at Florida State University, raise your hand. We have a collegiate recovery program. Yes. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I want to tell you first, if you're not familiar, what is a collegiate recovery program? It's really simple, y'all. Sorry, I've only been in the South for 18 months, and the Jersey is gone, and I'm saying y'all. So a collegiate recovery program is housed in an institution of higher education that confers degrees. And we embrace an abstinence-based recovery as a standard of the field. So that it's, we typically, as collegiate recovery programs, support students identifying as being in recovery from alcohol or other drugs. Now, there are other recovery programs across the country who are also talking and supporting students in recovery from disordered eating, gambling addiction, and other things. But for the most part, the lion's share is recovery from alcohol and other drugs. Recovery programs have paid, qualified, trained, and ethical and dedicated staff members who provide a bubble, a cushion of support around these students to navigate their recovery. Successful collegiate recovery programs have dedicated space. And when I'm talking about dedicated space, I'm not necessarily talking about having that house that I bought that sat empty before I had to sell it in New Jersey, is that lounges, social areas, gathering areas, areas where they can identify and create a community depending on where they are in their recovery journey, whether or not they want folks to know that they're in recovery or not. So a place that provides that buffer where the community can be built, but in a somewhat discreet manner until they're ready to more outwardly identify with that. Provide a variety of recovery support programmatic elements to assist students in maintaining and protecting their recovery. Quite simply, I believe that no student should have to choose between their recovery and Florida State University, right? Because without this support, whether it's Florida State, with football and a thriving fraternity and sorority community and all of these other, collegiate risks, right? No matter where you go, higher education socially outside of the classroom and outside of university-sanctioned programming is not always super recovery friendly, is it? Okay? So providing the community and the support for those students so that they don't have to ever make that decision is our mission. Having within them a community of students who offer each other peer support. Back to my story at the College of New Jersey, I had an incredible staff who planned incredible programs. I had an empty house. I had all of these. None of it meant anything if there weren't peers. Because they can get everything else. They can get activities, clinical services. They can get that anywhere outside of our walls if you really truly think about it. What they cannot get is that community piece. So that's the number one element. And often, programs often identify and collaborate with on and off campus partners and stakeholders, connecting with clinicians off campus, the anonymous community on and off campus, those pieces, and their nonprofit entities. None of us are in this to make the money off of our students. Collegiate recovery programs are expensive, but my argument is that it is more expensive not to have it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So for our data folks, before I jump into this too, I want everyone to know this number. 4% of students in higher education self-identify as being in recovery from alcohol or other drugs. So if you do the math, Florida State University, I have over 1,600 students identifying as being in recovery that I don't know who they are yet, okay? These are students who are in our halls, going to our football games, going to a tailgate, trying to make friends, and trying to stay in recovery, okay, with all of the pressures that are already alive and well in college life. And we also know that 40% of the students that we lose at institutions of higher education note substance use as part of the reason, okay? So that's where the math, collegiate recovery programs may be expensive, but not compared to the number of students that we risk losing, okay? This is very interesting. We brought in our representative from the Association of Recovery in Higher Education. He came and spent some time with us in the fall, and he provided us with this information. And I see some familiar faces in the room that were also at that presentation. But this is just something I cling on to. This is characteristics of collegiate recovery alumni. So after they leave us, after they've been in an identified collegiate recovery program while in school, 96.6% of them stay actively in recovery. Yeah. And the statistics for folks who are part of other recovery programs, either short-term or long-term, we all know through our work that the percentage is not that high. What is it, between 20 and 30%, depending on the programs, okay? So we know that students who go through their higher education experience as part of a collegiate recovery program, they fare so much better. The other stats here, a little over 10% average rate of any recurrence of substance use. We talk about recovery in these programs fluidly, meaning that if you have, we don't even like to use the word relapse. If you're part of this community and you have an episode and we're able to bring you back into the community, that the percentage of students who do experience that is relatively low. It's only 10%. Because we can get you back. Almost 90% believe that their collegiate recovery program helped them with academic success. That's why we're all here, right? Over 80% believe that their program prepared them for post-grad recovery, and the numbers don't lie. 80% felt that way, and 96% experienced it. 68% believe their program prepared them for professional life. I'll talk about that facet of a successful program in a bit. And that co-occurring behavioral health piece that we just heard Tanya talk about, 78% of them also had these co-occurring pieces. And for time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing at Florida State so you can kind of see where this is going. So for a program to be successful, I firmly believe that there are three elements. The community piece I talked about, so incredibly important. The clinical support, whether that's support that we have available to our students on campus through our counseling or university health services, or through our referral program if they have higher need than what we can provide, and developmental support. It is not just about clinical support and building the community, but we have scholarships to help our students. Sometimes financially, just being able to afford your books is the reason why some of them decide not to stay, and that's $500, $600 in some cases. Career development training, leadership development training, and wraparound case management. So these are kind of our three prongs. And our plan. So for all of my FSU colleagues, we are in year 0 of our plan. And the reason why I called it year 0 and not year 1 is because we're so under the radar right now by design. Because I did not want to create a program with no students in it again. Okay? So year 0 is dedicated to our cultivation phase. So we hired a graduate assistant with the support of the president's office and the provost's office. And their sole job is to identify students and start building community and using those same students as focus groups. What kind of collegiate recovery program and community are you looking for at Florida State University? And to start building our infrastructure. Year 1 is going to be dedicated to saying, hey, we have a program, so don't feel bad that you didn't know. I haven't really told anybody yet, okay, because we're in that cultivation piece. So next year, year 1, establishing the program, advertising the program, and advertising the program as, see this group of students? I already have a community for you. No one wants to be the first, right? So we have the community already built. I'm working on identifying space for this community to gather. I'm working on awarding scholarships. We've got a lot of really passionate donors that feel very, very strongly about helping students who are in recovery. Year 2, building the program, then more of an outward identity. We project that at that point in time, the rest of the Florida State community will start seeing the collegiate recovery program pop up in places and identify that's something that Florida State University has. with more campus-wide activities, peer leadership roles, pieces like that. And year 3 is going to be all about sustaining the program. So institutionalizing support and structure where I can, exploring a housing, living learning community, and really bolstering that alumni program too. Because as you can see from our data, the alumni are so important as well.